is. What do you think's behind it? Do they really want to? Are they genuine in what they're trying to do, or is there something else to it?
No. God knows they're not. Okay, so what's really behind it? The government is bankrupt. The corporate government is bankrupt. All of our state governments are bankrupt. So they need to find a way to raise revenue. And to raise revenue, we have a lot of minerals in our lands, in our ground. And being an original person, I know that because we've got lots of mining in our country happening, and that's causing all sorts of strife between the people. Anyway, we've got a mineral-rich country. It's all about the land. So what they're trying to do is corporatise all of us, the original people, corporatise our voice so that we don't have a voice. That's what they've done with setting up all the land councils. They're all corporations, so that the corporations can then contract with the corporation. That's what they need. And the corporation then, because that's giving money to our land councils, will then take it away. And they'll say that land now belongs to us. The yes vote will put their bosses, which is the board of directors of the corporation, a la Parliament. They'll say, oh, well, we can now make that decision. Forget about the original sovereign law of the people of the land. We're now, all of you mob, all agreed. All the Australians gave consent by saying yes that we could do that. And they will in fact, it's already happening. All of the land titles are being digitised to start with. I know in Victoria, and it will happen everywhere, in Victoria, they have not only digitised the land, your supposed certificates of title, you only have land right. You only have in the certificate. Okay, so they've done that. And the next step is they have sold all of those land titles to a private company in New York, so that the money they got from selling those land titles is what's continuing the Victorian government.
Yeah, and you have we made a minute, but let's bring in Grandmother Mulara, and we're allowed to call you Auntie. But tonight's show, of course, everyone's waiting for this chat, so maybe we'll get on there. We'll bring in suspended Dr. William Bay. Now, guys, I'm going to put Auntie over to the left and Billy to the right, and as much as I can, I'm just going to do the comments and allow you guys to talk, because Billy's got everybody talking. But first off, though, this is interesting today. We'll just start with this. This came in from Malcolm Roberts just today.
The Australian Electoral Commission has erred in the proposed content of the ballot paper to be distributed and used in the 2023 referendum, as it is unconstitutional. During our telephone conversation of Friday, 8 September 2023, you informed Hugh Carter of my office that the ballot paper for the referendum is intended to be in the form of Form B, as in Schedule 1 of the Referendum Machinery Provisions Act 1984. I submit that Form B is unconstitutional, as it only refers to the title of the proposed law, when Section 128 of Australia's Constitution says that the proposed law shall be submitted to the electors. What comprises the proposed law? Section 128 says that the proposed law for the alteration thereof must be passed by an absolute majority of each House of the Parliament. This was done by the Constitutional Alteration Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice Act 2023. Schedule 1 of that Act inserts a new chapter to the Constitution as part of the proposed law. I then quoted that in my letter as Parliament approved. The distinction I make is that the above, from the word Chapter 9 until the words powers and procedures, is the proposed law that needs to be put to the electors on the ballot paper in full, not the mere title, to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. I also submit that the content of the official pamphlet is misleading, as on pages 8 and 9 there is reference to, I quoted the title again. I submit that at best, this title or description is merely a statement of purpose or intention to be attributed to the proposed law, and if printed as part of the ballot paper as currently intended, would be unconstitutional, as not complying with the requirements of Section 128 of the Constitution to present the proposed law to the electors. With so much invested in the holding of this referendum, it is imperative that the process be uncontroversial and legally sound. To not do so invites external intervention and overview of the electoral and constitutional processes.
Okay, I believe that just happened today. So as far as I know, that was Billy's initial claim when he put in, and that was his argument, which is based on the law from a law professor in Adelaide, Andrew somebody, I think. Anyway, but we can go from there. So out of respect, Auntie, we'll allow you to go first to why you think Billy was wrong.
Well, I'll ask him actually what he did. Okay. Yeah. So, hello, Doctor.
Hello, Auntie. Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone.
I just want to take you through the process. So what actually did you do before today?
I've done a lot, yes, before today. And
About
in regards to this referendum, yeah, that started on Monday night, where I submitted a Form 12 application to the High Court to challenge the validity of the referendum that's scheduled to be held on the 14th of October. And I've just noticed a few moments ago that they have now released the writs for that referendum by the Governor-General. And I felt that the referendum was being held deceptively by the government because they changed the proposed law not about recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and the composition and powers of the voice, but into a one-sentence question that in no way, shape or form resembled the true law being proposed to alter the Constitution. And so I called them out on that and discovered that in the Referendum Machinery Provisions Act 1984, in Form B, Schedule 1, it says unlawfully, in my opinion, that the title of the proposed law only shall be submitted on the ballot paper, not the proposed law itself. So I believe that does not align with the spirit or the wording or the meaning of Section 128 of the of the Constitution, which says that the proposed law must be submitted to the electors when deciding on whether to alter the Constitution or not. On that basis, I submitted my paperwork on Monday night. Tuesday, just before the Cafe Lockout special on the 5th of September, I got an email from the High Court saying that my matter had not been filed in the High Court. And then I asked for reasons from the High Court, from Deputy Registrar Adam, as to what was the reason. Was there any reasons for vexatiousness or abuse of process or anything like that? There were no reasons given. Now, when I got that email, I thought, oh, that's not so good. Perhaps that didn't go as well as I liked. But no, I got the message from God, because I am a believer in Almighty Jesus Christ, Auntie, that he told me that it is a victory because under the presumption of law, a maxim of law, all laws are valid by the Parliament until challenged. I challenged the law. They did not come back and say I was wrong. They did not say that the law was constitutional. So with that challenge not being met, I declared and still declare victory in the constitutionality or lack thereof of the referendum 2023. And importantly, because you asked what okay, yep.
Hold you there. So did you get a file number?
I got a stamp from Justice Jagger of the High Court stating that my matter had not been filed.
Stamps. Right, that's correct. So it hasn't been filed. The stamp, my friend, is a fairly common stamp. It's because everybody has to go through a process, a particular process to the High Court. So
yes,
that stamp indicates that it wasn't just for you. That stamp is pretty typical of people who haven't filed correctly. I'm not having a go at you, but I want to get it right. That, in fact, the correct filing, which you had indicated you might do today, so let's listen to that in a moment, is on a Form 31. I mean, these forms, you've just got to know what you're doing. But the thing is, all well and good, love your energy, put it out there. The problem is that I'm sure there's a maxim of law, and you want to quote maxims of law, that says do not proclaim that you saved the world when you haven't. That's the problem. And I just want to come back because the freedom movement really means a lot to me. It means a lot to all of us. We all want something to change. That is not what's happened here. So I contacted you and said, No. You've got it wrong. You've used the wrong form. And I understand that there might be some other people who've also told you the same thing. Now I'm here because, not because I'm having a go at you, but actually to correct it, to give the truth, because I've had that many inquiries. I can't answer all of the inquiries I've received of so many that say, "Oh, have you heard? We've won. You know, there's no referendum." I thought, wait a minute, no, that's not true at all. What's happened is that actually nothing has happened, and the registrar, in his or her position, that's what they do. They check whether you followed the right process, and you haven't. Now, God's on all of our side. What I want to say is we need to correct a false misunderstanding that there hasn't been any saviour going on here. It seems to me that you would have something to argue, but you've got to go through the right process. So you've filed a Form 31?
Yeah, well, let me respond to that. So in regards to that stamp on that form, I agree that it has been stamped, and I agree that the form was not filed. I've never disputed that. In fact, I put it up publicly on my website right from Tuesday with Michael on Cafe Lockdown. My argument is that at the moment of her stamping that document, it shows that Justice Jago considered my matter, and for whatever reason, not specified, she refused to file it. So that is the facts that I stand by. Now, you've talked about process, about whether it was proper to have Form 12 put first or Form 31 put first. Form 12 is a constitutional writ. I was seeking an inquiry challenging the constitutional validity of the Referendum Machineries Provisions Act 1984. So I filed that Form 12. And then, as the stamp says, I failed. It said 6.0.7.2. I failed in the filing, but not in the considering. Again, my contention is challenging the constitutionality of the referendum is enough to get us the victory we need. And I am happy and still claim the victory because things are playing out exactly as I believe they would, Auntie, because once they refuse to stop defending the legality of this referendum, all things would and have been collapsing, as we've seen with Senator Roberts this evening. So to answer your question, yes, I have filed a Form 31 now, as promised. I told everybody that who was listening that I would file it this morning. And the great news is I just found out and posted about a minute before this show that the High Court has emailed me to accept that filing. So it's now fully on the record. My filing is in the High Court, and I have the email to prove it.
So it's lodged. Is it? Do you have a file number?
Yes, I do, Auntie. It's and I've just posted on my Twitter now, Michael, for everybody to have a look. It's file number HCA DLS number 0034711.
Right. So up until today, you actually hadn't done anything. That's what I want to make clear. There hadn't been any saviour. The freedom movement still needs to push ahead. People cannot sit on their laurels. We all need to come together. We all want something to happen. And so that's good. So we now are clear that as of today, you have not only lodged, you've filed. So now we can get things going. So that's what I want to clear up. Nothing on the in terms of have we stopped the referendum? No, we haven't.
I'm just going to bring up the number. That's it there.
That's correct. Yes. There we go.
Yeah. So everyone can take a thing of that. And we're done.
We're winning where we have won because I have exposed the unconstitutionality of the referendum and they failed to defend themselves. And that is why the matter is going on now in the Senate. The matter is going on in the High Court and the matter is going on in the public because they did not defend the constitutionality of the referendum. And that's why we will win.
Doctor, nothing has happened yet. There is
what has happened
for them to challenge you on. I'm hoping that they will. I'm not against you. I'm saying...
Can I ask Auntie, now it's been filed, how long do you think before they'd listen to it or do anything about it? Because I thought the High Court would take years.
You'd be lucky to get it within 28 days.
Yep.
Usually 28 days.
Yeah, well, I've requested expediency in my application because of the nature of what's going on. And the important thing is, everyone, that my matter has been filed successfully today in time and just before or on the day of the issue of the writ for the referendum. So they cannot use the argument in any case in the future or even now that we did not file in time. And that was the key victory that I achieved on Tuesday. Some would say today. I'm saying on both days. There is no doubt about the filing now. I accept that there may have been some doubt before, not on my behalf, but on behalf of others. And well, yeah, that's your opinion. It's not mine, and we can agree to disagree on that. That's okay.
John.
A hearing. There hasn't been a hearing. There's not yet been a challenge. You haven't stood in a court to challenge them yet.
Yes, well, the matter is filed now, and the most important thing, Auntie, is to get this on the record so they cannot take away our standing or my standing in this matter or any future matters, because in past cases like Boland v. Hughes 1988, they said the impediment to them ruling on the constitutionality of the referendum ballot paper was the lack of time, because Mr. Boland only filed 2 days before the 1988 referendum. So I've defeated that argument before it starts, and now that's why the government you saw in Malcolm Roberts' speech today in the Senate, they were even saying that the professor who's raised the issue was actually the teacher of the Special Minister of State. So Michael Detmold, the Emeritus Professor at Law from Adelaide University, is in full support of the arguments I put forward, and Malcolm Roberts is in support as well. So it's on Hansard now. It's completely on the record. No matter what happens from this moment on, I say we cannot lose, because you either vote no. I encourage everybody to vote no anyway, just in case. Whether you vote no for whatever reason, I'm voting no because it is unconstitutional. It will be lost in the courts if it gets a yes, which it won't. So the whole thing is collapsing, and we have won.
Look, I'm not a lawyer at all. What I do know, though, is I've been in the freedom movement for 3 years, and I haven't seen lawyers achieve anything. In fact, all of my friends who've gone to court have been unable to find a lawyer. When he was saying he had God on his side, I was laughing because I was thinking God is the only lawyer we have. All my doctor friends that have had to challenge APRA have done it alone. All the ones of us, I mean, I had a lawyer that took me for $6,000, and all he did in those 3 meetings with the judges was set golfing dates. He goes, I can't make this date, I can't make this date. And then he said, okay, I'm going to need more money, and nothing was done. I actually won the case myself, and I didn't know what I was doing. So unfortunately, previous to this time, I did hold lawyers in high esteem. Now I see them the same as priests, vanished. I see them the same as politicians, useless. I see them as this. So just saying they're a lawyer is one thing, but we've had so many things that we've needed lawyers for, especially constitutional lawyers. We can't even get one to come on the show. Augustus Zimmerman won't come on the show. He's the most outspoken one. They won't come on the show. Human rights lawyers, not to be heard. And every human right that I thought we had enshrined has been wiped away in the last 3 years. So unfortunately, what I think people see, even though Billy might be fresh at this and he's doing it, and I don't know, at least he's doing something. At least he's there knocking on the door. He's not asking for money. He's not putting a big thing out that I need $1 million to do this case. He just did it. I didn't even know what he was going to talk about. Before the show, he said, I've got some big news. I thought it was about APRA. I said, come tell me on the show. I'm too tired to hear now. And then he's talking about this.
Look, truly.
The thing was, this is the truth.
Nothing.
No, I'm not saying that he's achieved anything, but what is saying one truth that no one's taken account of. At the moment, Billy has sparked the debate, whether he's right or wrong, to such a degree they're doing news articles in England. The mainstream media is keeping up with him. And now in the Senate today, they were debating his arguments in the Senate today. And they're doing it because of what if he did. So maybe he got a bit excited in the first show. I don't know. He's a big man. He can speak for himself. But what I know is he's got more people talking about The Voice than anybody I know.
You must have the facts correct, or the whole of our movement implodes. And that's what I'm seeing happen.
I mean, well, let's look at the other side. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Bullshit. The vaccine is safe and effective. Bullshit. You won't need more than one booster.
We're on the same side there. We've got the same enemy.
We live in a tsunami of bullshit. We are fully capable of living within lies because we live in a world of lies. Literally no one knows what the truth is anymore. Prime ministers can't tell you what a woman is. I mean, nothing. The truth is long gone because we are in a war, Auntie. And the first casualty of a war is the
You're
truth.
talking to an original woman. Don't you think I know it? We live it.
Well, then if you know it, why are you telling me? This is how I think we have to heal it. We have to talk. We have to listen. Now, Billy has been listening a lot, but he has been talking. And so this is what we have to do and have to talk. And this is how we heal, because the freedom movement is able to disagree, talk, come to some agreements, maybe we're not fully agreement, and survive and be friends and move on. The other side can't. If you say something the other side doesn't like, you're cancelled, you're gone. Yeah. And so that's the strength of the freedom movement. What we're doing tonight isn't weakening the freedom movement, it's strengthening the freedom movement.
Correct,
because
and that's
we
why
can have public debate. So I'll go silent now, but I've had my say.
So the writ had to be issued by today. And there's one thing that you have said that you've indicated that there's, and it's a quote from you, you said only a few people are doing anything. That is actually not true. We as in a group of very clever legal men and women, as well as our tribal law men and women, have a strategy in place to do a number of things.
That's good. We should all work together on this.
Correct. And so I'm here to correct the record that there's more than you doing anything here, that in actual fact, we've got several strategies happening. The first one was, was a petition to the King and to the Governor-General. And I've sent that to Michael to put up to show you that, in fact, we have actually been working. The original people of this land can actually save Australia. And we have been working together, quite a number of us, in conjunction with some very clever non-original people, but who might be white on the outside but black on the inside, have been working with us, really beautiful people, and we couldn't do it without them. So we've got a petition. Now, do we believe that would have stopped them? The petition was to not issue the writ on our behalf, because this is about our business. We don't want to be on the corporate charter. We don't give them the consent for that. We don't want to contract with them in that way. Do we trust them to follow that through? No. So our second strategy is to put an injunction into the court. So you're doing it court way. We're going to do it the people way. And I'm going to explain it in a moment. The people way to the court way. We are putting an injunction in, but to the existence of a valid writ. You're talking about how it's written. We're talking about the writ itself. In the referendum,
so we can work together.
The referendum of '99 is where the people decided a republic versus a constitutional monarchy. They decided the constitutional monarchy, and therefore a valid writ cannot be issued without the monarch's approval. Like it or lump it, and that is the GG. Governor-General. So what we are putting to the listeners of this channel, we want everybody to get on board. What we want you to do is to do two things. Write to the Governor-General, David Hurley, who seems to be a bit of a where's Wally, and none of us have really seen him around. But anyway, we want you to write to the Governor-General, David Hurley, whose duty it is to write and issue the writ, number one. Number two, to write to Tom Rogers of the Australian Electoral Commission, whose duty it is to receive and receipt, according to law, a validly issued writ and to record it. So what we're asking people to do, everyone that is prepared to do it, wouldn't take long, is to write to those two people and to say, before I vote, I want to see a copy of the writ and send it to me, as in the writer, to return it to you. Now, if you send it by email, do a delivery receipt. It'll automatically tick and say, yes, it's been delivered. Do a read receipt as well. They may or may not click, yeah, I've read it or not, but at least you'll have the delivery receipt and take a screenshot of that. That's by email. If you do it by hard copy, we want you to take a picture of the letter. If it's a photograph on your camera's fine. A picture of the letter and a picture of the registered post. We suggest registered post because that gives you a delivery record. And we want that to, I've just turned in my page notes because I've got the, where I want you to send it to me in my notes here. We want you to post, first of all, post responses across social media, if you get any. Where's the valid writ? We want to see it. And send a copy, if you would, of what you've done, all of you, what you've done to our email so that we can keep a record of the numbers that have been documenting it, the numbers of people who have sent these out, because that's all going to be part of our injunction effort. And that email is capital S, sovereign, capital P, people's, capital A, assembly, at proton.me. I'll say it again. Sovereign People's Assembly at proton.me. That's a separate email to any personal email, and it's purely for a repository of preparing documentation for the injunction. What else are we doing? We're doing a lot of things. So apart from lodging and filing the injunction to halt the referendum, we have tribal law people and tribal law councils coming together, and they are meeting with local people in their various areas. We also have the law keepers, the law holders meeting as men and as women and as together. We've got different meetings happening all over the country. The original sovereign people. We have a what's coming in the pipeline is a registration opportunity as a living man or a living woman to register to get out of the corporation altogether. There's only so far we can go. We need an alternative, and there are some very clever legal minds who are working on that opportunity, and I'm sure that we'd blast that out into the freedom movement when the time comes. In the long term, the sovereign people plan to make a proclamation of independence with the various international courts, such as The Hague and the Invictus Court. So there's a lot of, and convene an international tribal council. There's a lot of things on the agenda. We haven't been sitting on our laurels, and we need to understand and appreciate all of the efforts going forward, but we can only do it where there's truth. And truth has not been told.
And to clarify, I have been standing in my truth, and I continue to stand in my truth. I do tell the truth. It is the truth. In God's name, amen.
Truth is so difficult. You know, look at Julia Gillard recently was asked what a woman was, and she couldn't answer it, you know. And to me, if you asked me, I would say, you know, you want me to define a woman? I can't, because the answer is abhorrent, because I've got a mother and it insults her and insults every other mother that leads back to the grave. So that's a question I can't answer, because I feel it's a question we don't ask, because I don't have to define a woman. But Julia Gillard, a prime minister way above me, can't answer it. So that's her truth and that's my truth.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is just
So
one lie means that there's one truth. And what what I ascertained from what Billy said on the show, because I was a bit stunned as well, is that he's putting a challenge now, meaning that the door is open to be challenged later. Now, is that legally correct? Or if the referendum goes ahead and is successful, can somebody legally challenge it after the referendum has been successful? Is someone allowed to do that?
Ideally, we need to stop it, because we don't trust that it would not be rigged. You can't do anything until the supposed writ was issued, which was today.
Okay, so it's
from today.
Okay,
yeah, and as I wrote in my as I wrote in my submission, that I put to the High Court that I was filing in advance of the writ to coincide with the time of the issuance of the writ. And as it so turned out, I was perfectly timed. It came on the exact same day that my matter was filed successfully. Things take a lot of time, as you know, Auntie, to work out through the High Court. So that's why I had to get it underway quickly as possible. And as it's turned out, exactly as I put in my Form 12 application, I have filed on the exact same day as the writs were issued, which is today.
But just one thing. So now the writ's done. Now it can be legally challenged by anybody, really, which means
Correct.
that opens the door afterwards.
But when you use the word challenge, it has yet to be challenged because it has yet to be heard. Grandmotherwisdom.com, there's a heading says Proclamation of Sovereignty. There's a drop-down box that says 1973
Yep, got it.
Constitution changes. Okay, great. In there are videos and there are resources various people have put together, and I've grabbed them from all over the place because I kept getting asked, I can't find any resources about the change. I went, right, let's put
it all. You've got a summary there as well, I see.
Correct. And
is this from Dick Yardley? Is that who you've got sent it to me?
It's probably one of the authors, but there are many.
Oh, I just have a lot of emails. I'm just trying to figure out.
I've also looked at the Uluru Statement that the government are spruiking. Now, the Uluru Statement was only written by 5 people, not by all of that convention.
Wow, that's a first.
The original idea of the voice comes from what's his first name? Mark Liebler. Mm-hmm. He is a Jewish banker. So he is a very high-level lobbyist to the Commonwealth Government. He was a co-chair of the Reconciliation Council. Now, why would they choose a banker to be doing that? The idea of the voice came from him.
Wow.
Shall I continue?
Yeah,
so
please.
Right. So you've got the idea of the voice coming from a banker. You've got 5 people only who wrote the one page, the Uluru Statement. You've got supposedly a convention of different tribal elders and representatives to pull all that together. They were actually what we call the corporate blacks, paid to be there. And I've also got on that website, that page, a picture of them signing a blank form. They are not signing the Uluru Statement. It turned in, it was put in there. Now, would you sign a blank contract? Because what they're doing is they're contracting by signing, but they're contracting to a blank document, and then the government put that on there.
Well, I have to admit, Auntie, I went to Wiluna, Mount Magnet, Meekatharra, and a few other, and interviewing anybody Indigenous, any law people I could. None of them had been approached about the voice. Nothing, not a text, not a phone call, nothing. In fact, they had a joke that it was the voice with Simon Cowell, you know, where they were going to, they're all saying, I can't sing, but they knew nothing about it. And that's what got me concerned, you know, because it was like, well, how come you don't know? You're the local lawman. And I went to several nations and no one knows anything about it. And you're thinking, well, isn't it for you? Isn't this why we're doing it?
No. And in fact, I'd also heard in Tribal Council, I was out there in Central Australia last year, there were some people there who said, oh, we paid our own way to go to this convention and we got shut down. Our voice was not heard. We were told to leave because we weren't agreeing with the corporate black agenda.
Well, I can say tomorrow I've got Bruce Shillingsworth Jr. coming on, who I'm a mad fan on, and I went to share one of his things and it will not let me share it. So you're bringing in the voice to give the Indigenous people a voice, but he's an Indigenous person they obviously don't like, and his voice is being silenced. That's what we're coming on to discuss about tonight. In fact, it's amazing. I actually put out early on Twitter and everywhere, are they going to silence this debate tonight? So I thought I'd see to set it up to whether they would do it. They haven't. Yeah. But
so just back to the
silencing one part of the community.
So back to the constitutionality of the referendum. Sorry, Arnie, just to get clear what you're saying. So do you agree with me that the ballot paper is illegal and that it doesn't put out the full law, the proposed law that it is proposed to change the constitution?
I haven't seen it, but I know that it will be an invalid writ. It will not be valid.
Okay, so we agree.
So the argument is, can you tell the argument, William, because Senator Roberts is doing it now too?
Yeah. So my argument is, as put in the Form 12 and put in the Form 31, is that the Referendum Machinery Act, which governs the way that referendums are held, unlawfully says that only the title of the bill to change the Constitution is inserted on the ballot paper, whereas the Constitution, specifically Section 128, says the proposed law for the alteration thereof must be passed by an absolute majority of each house of the Parliament, and not less than not more than 6 months after its passage through both houses. The proposed law, not the title, not a description of it, the proposed law shall be submitted in each state and territory to the electors qualified to vote for the election of members of the House of Representatives. That is my argument, that they are deceiving the Australian people by changing the proposed law to a one sentence law, which is, they say, to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia. Who are they? They don't even say that anymore. By establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. That is what they're putting on the ballot paper, and that is what's unlawful, in my opinion, because it does not represent the actual law, which is the insertion of Section 129, subsection I, subsection II, and subsection III.
There is some validity in the argument. Our point will be, those that I'm working with behind the scenes, is that we need to stop it before it gets even to there. I think it's more possible to do an injunction of the writ's validity than possibly what DOC's doing here. But do both.
Can I ask you, Auntie, what do you think is the reason they're doing it for? Because we've got people dying everywhere. There's homelessness is through the roof. I've got a dear friend who's just about to be homeless because there's no rents in Melbourne. It's so difficult to find. We've got all these major problems, and everything's just the voice. What do you think's behind it? Do they really want to? Are they genuine in what they're trying to do, or is there something else to it?
No. God knows they're not. Okay, so what's really behind it? The government is bankrupt. The corporate government is bankrupt. All of our state governments are bankrupt. So they need to find a way to raise revenue. And to raise revenue, we have a lot of minerals in our lands, in our ground. And being an original person, I know that because we've got lots of mining in our country happening, and that's causing all sorts of strife between the people, conflict. Anyway, we've got a mineral-rich country. It's all about the land. So what they're trying to do is corporatise all of us, the original people, corporatise our voice so that we don't have a voice. That's what they've done with setting up all the land councils. They're all corporations, so that the corporations can then contract with the corporation. That's what they need. And the corporation then, because that's giving money to our land councils, will then take it away. And they'll say that land now belongs to us. The yes vote will put their bosses, which is the board of directors of the corporation, a la Parliament. They'll say, oh, well, we can now make that decision. Forget about the original sovereign law of the people of the land. We're now, all of you mob, all agreed. All the Australians gave consent by saying yes that we could do that. And they will in fact, it's already happening. All of the land titles are being privatised, digitised to start with. I know in Victoria, and it will happen everywhere, in Victoria, they have not only digitised the land, your supposed certificates of title, you only have land right.
That's happening
in the certificate. Okay, so they've done that. And the next step is they have sold all of those land titles to a private company in New York, so that the money they got from selling those land titles is what's continuing the Victorian government.
But we've got this woman who's been waiting a long time to come in, this Jennifer. She's a friend of yours, I believe. So I'm just going to bring her in now. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, everyone. How are you tonight?
I'll put
Hi, Auntie.
Behind me. Do you know each other?
Well, we do, only through speaking at the same events about The Voice. So yeah, I haven't met her in person yet, but I can't wait to.
So what are your views of what you've been watching? Because Auntie's just said some really powerful stuff.
Yes, yes. And I'm totally in agreement with Auntie. It is a corporation. If it's got an ABN, it's not us. It's not the real voice. They're usurping
it's a land grab.
And circling back on the Constitution and all the changes they've made without the public's awareness. Basically, I still applaud you, Dr. Bay, for having a go at this giant. If we all get together is the main point, and bring this beast system down, and that's with the truth. And that's why the sovereign nations or sovereign peoples across this land are getting together, and it's very exciting, isn't it, Auntie? All the lists and all the hard work that you have been doing and you hear about through the community. We're all getting together. This is the thing. I can add to that update as well with my circles, that basically groups from the centre, the desert, there's about 14 tribes that have actually been discussed and unpacked this sovereign stuff, this maritime law stuff. And I literally printed out Captain Cook ship models so we could show them in pictures, because these tribal people have English as like a sixth language. So it was really good to get that message through to them in the, I guess, the white world, corporate world. So basically, after they heard all that, it was like, we've got to go to Canberra. And it's incredible because there's a prophecy, a painting and a mosaic on the ground at the new Parliament. It's called the Wallaby and Possum Dreaming, and it's about all the totems coming back together. So we've made our statement, our future, our direction is already there. It's like, you know, all the freedom movement worlds and all the different channels saying, you know, the truth is right in front of us. And that's what we're on about, is the truth, working together. Yes, having these great debates, and I love the debate because, you know, your heart's there. This is a spiritual battle, first and foremost. And I can't wait for these 14 tribes to come to Canberra. So it's very exciting that, yes, we're all standing up, and it's all in creators' timing as well. You know, we've got to show up, we've got to be together and attack this on all fronts.
Can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later gotta cut you down, sooner or later gotta cut you down. Go tell that long-tongued liar, go and tell that midnight rider, tell the rambler, the gambler, the backbiter, tell him that God's gonna cut him down, tell him that God's gonna cut him down.